Leadership plays a vital role in giving people a sense of order in a rapidly chaotic environment. It pulls people from the state of hopelessness when the going gets tough, that by mere leadership, people see the glimmer of hope amidst the clouds of darkness. Since time immemorial, leadership unleashed the full force of inspiration, the moving up, the strong invisible force that lifts the human spirit to greatness. Leadership becomes the critical default when chaos and this global pandemic started to directly impact the lives of everyone. Today, we launched the LEADS series, which stands for Leadership, Entrepreneurship, Advocacy, Digital Space, and Serving the Public, which will be rolled out in the next few months. This online platform has been powered by Ayala Young Leaders Alumni Bicol United and Runcation PH, which fundamentally centers in making online presence and giving impact to the lives of those who are affected by this pandemic. That this revitalized mental health discussion can actually lift the lives of Filipino people. In our small way, we help carry out our digital alternatives to keep everyone tuned to everyday realities. So Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. It will be another learning discussion tonight that centers on leadership perspectives and sharing their leadership journey with us along the way. So to everyone, sit back and enjoy this leadership episode. So before we actually start and have our first speaker, we want to actually shout out the places and location that we have our viewers. So welcome po to those viewers from Rizal, Tagbilaran, Kapalong, Davao del Norte, Quezon City, Sarangani, Olongapo, Tarlac, La Union, here in Bicol. Then we have Albay, Pangasinan, and Cebu City. So the rest are always coming up. But again, to start off this discussion, may we call on actually a fellow AY of mine. Currently, he is the Chief of Staff of the Office of Representative MJ Dalipe of the province of Zamboanga. May I call on Marvin Segura to share us his leadership journey.
Steve, thank you also. Okay, allow me to share my presentation, 10 slide presentation here. Okay. So again, good evening. I would like to start my presentation on my leadership journey. Okay, my first question in 1998, well, that was 2 decades ago. My first question to myself was, why do I want to lead? What's my motivation? What's my principle? What's my belief? Why I wanted to lead? And I follow this five steps. One is you have to define everything. So I define with yourself. Why do you want to lead? Your values, your principles, and your beliefs, because all of those are non-negotiable. So the first step in 1998, when I joined the Boy Scouts of the Philippines was That's the same question. Next is my decision to lead because it's a lifelong commitment. So leadership for me is a decision. And when you decide to lead, you have to own it. And when you own it, you have to commit. And your commitment is, of course, for the purpose of serving our community. May dinagdag lang ko ng konti, yung number 4 at number 5. This is very sacred for me. This is my playbook. When I started with the Boy Scouts of the Philippines, my commitment to excellence is always anchored on the scout oath of the Boy Scouts, which is on my honor, I will do my best, etc. Then the last one is when you deliver results, you have to exceed expectation. I'll discuss with each of this one later. So my journey started in 1998 when I was joining a jamboree. So I was just a young Boy Scout, part of the contingent. And there's one person on stage and was like telling us, you have to form your line. You have to follow your leader. I was inspired because I really wanted to be like him. So I chose to join the Boy Scouts of the Philippines. Think, plan, and act. That my TPA is always, you have to think where or what organization you will be joining that will be your vehicle that can translate your energy and commitment to achieve your aspirations or your goals. For me, the Boy Scouts of the Philippines during my elementary years and high school years was the perfect instrument, the perfect vehicle for me, the perfect organization because of community service. So I started from the bottom up to reaching the senior crew leader position. Ben, of course, kasama ko dito sa panelist, was my batchmate. So second one is campus publication. When I was with the BFP, I was asking myself, ano ba yung pwede kong pang-complement for being a Boy Scout? So I started writing. I joined the campus publication, and that taught me about being socially aware of what's happening in our community. Boy Scouts of the Philippines, the scouting movement taught me about community service. Campus publication taught me about being socially aware of what's happening in our country. The last one is about student government. I joined the student government one time, big time. I ran for president straight. I am not a senator. I was not a representative or even a governor of a college. After the publication stint, I ran for president of the student council. For me, because that's the thinking, the planning, and putting it into action. I thought Boy Scouts taught me about community service. Planning on it, become the president of the student government, is putting into action all those critical issues I raised at the campus publication. So that's my TPA. That's in school. The second TPA for me is for my professional career. I started with a non-government organization, a French foundation supporting the street children of Manila in 2008. That was 10 years after my Boy Scout stint. I joined the National Youth Commission and later on joined the House of Representatives. I was hired by the Deputy Speaker from Mindanao. Then later on to the Office of the President. Then the United Nations Development Program, and back at the House of Representatives. I'll tell you later why I love jumping from one organization to another organization. The first photo is with the Office of the President. The second photo is with the House of Representatives. The next one with Secretary Lacson was with the Office of the Presidential Assistance for Rehab and Recovery. And the last photo is with the United Nations Development Program. And the bigger photo here is the mayor of Zamboanga City and my current boss, the congressman of the 2nd District of Zamboanga. Little did I know that in the last 10 years, from 1998 to 2008, in school, I was taught community service, socially aware, and being accountable. Little did I know that it will lead me to public service. So this track of my professional career, from NGO to NYC to House of Rep to Office of the President to United Nations Development Program to House of Representative back, I didn't know na ito pala yung track which is focused on public service. So that's my TPA. So one is I defined what I really wanted to do. Second was you have to think, to plan, and to put into action. The third one is you have to surround yourself with mentors, not just good mentors, but authentic and credible mentors. The first photo there is um, all of us are AYLC alumni, and mind you, under one government office. One from 2002, then two from 2001, and me from 2006. So this is my team in Zamboanga City. The second one, of course, is familiar kay si Kuya Ben and Aris. And I met Kuya Ben when I was president of the student council. He was the one continuously pushing me to do more for the student council. He was critical, asking me about impact, about um, what's the benefit of this program for the students. Actually, siya yung nagturo sa akin about flawless execution. I hope na remember pa niya yan. The third photo there is I'm with my Ayala Young Leaders, of course, seniors. Hindi ko nga alam, Ben, hindi ko rin alam bakit. Uh, Mahilig tayo, yung mentors natin is way like 6 years ahead of us. Yeah, you will see it there. Then, of course, Sir Monch, our Congress Director, Leslie Cordero, Jeff Tarayaw, and of course, Ben. The last photo there is my mentor since 2002. He was the former mayor of Iloilo City, my hometown. He was mayor from 2010 up to 2009. Okay, so very important to surround yourself with mentors. Really, really good mentors, but of course, authentic. That they will listen to you, whatever you have concerns. The next one is you challenge yourself always. Never and never stop learning. The four photos here are ito yung mga ito yung lagi kong challenge sarili ko. The first one was Beijing, China in 2008. We studied Mandarin. The second photo was studying political liberalism in Germany in 2013. The third one is the Defense University in Taiwan. And the last one is the Defense College here in the Philippines. These are issues na malayo sa akin. But I challenge myself, learn Mandarin, learn political liberalism, learn national defense and security. So always remember you have to challenge yourself as always. And when it comes to challenging ourselves, you should get out from our comfort zone. Very crucial kasi siya na pag sobrang komportable ka na, then of course, ayaw mo na gumalaw. I have three instances. Ito yung humubog din mismo ng leadership ko as an individual was I was assigned to document the Dalai Lama's prayer in India in 2008. Maraming umaayaw, but when that opportunity knocks, I said, challenge to. Let's go. Second one was in 2011, 3 months into the job as assistant of the deputy speaker for Mindanao, I was assigned to do the liaison work for the congressional delegation in Taiwan. No questions asked, I accepted, and it was a challenge, but I learned a lot. The last one was the biggest Philippine delegation in the United Nations World Disaster Conference in Japan. That was the last photo with Attorney Leslie and Yusek Pama of the Civil Defense. Those three, one is documentation for the Dalai Lama's prayer. Di naman ako media, but I want to learn. liaison for congressional delegation, hindi ko rin to area. It's for more on protocol and diplomatic relations. But I said yes. The last one is about the disaster conference. And I said yes. So you have to challenge yourself always. The next one is, ito yung number 5, may last sa playbook ko. You have to learn to love change. You have to transform crisis into an opportunity. Of all those assignments from Congress, National Youth Commission, UNDP, and back in the House of Representatives, and even at the Office of the President, all of those are co-term appointments. I mean, hindi ako permanent. So, sabi nila, bakit hindi ka mag-apply ng maging permanent? Bakit gusto mo ng unstable co-term appointment? You serve at the pleasure of your boss. For me kasi, I love challenges and I love changes. So, co-term appointment, you serve at the pleasure of your boss. So, you have a tendency to do your best at every hour, at every minute, because every day is your last day at work. So you have to do your best. Walang time na maging pabaya. So that's my motto. Bakit? Then acknowledge that we don't control all the time. So we just respond and do not react. Okay. So very crucial ito kasi twice kami na end of term. In 2010, our appointment was deemed void. So we were the term of the office pala nag-end of term yung contract. The same time minsan nag-expire yung appointment. So during this time, para sa akin, it's an opportunity. So when our term at the National Youth Commission ended, that gave me the opportunity to join Congress. When the office of the president, when our appointments with the office of the president expired in 2015, that was an opportunity for me to join the United Nations Development Program. So for me, it's all just transforming the problem or the crisis into an opportunity. Now, leading into the new normal, I want to share to you, mga nakikinig, sa nanonood, this is my playbook for the new normal. Mahilig kasi ako mag-define eh. So I go back to define pa rin. You define the expectations in your organization with your teammates, with your colleagues. Importante kasi na yung expectation is to ma-ensure natin na alam natin kung saan tayo patungo. Hindi pwedeng nangangapa yung isa sa team member nyo. So this one, in our political office, and the same time the legislative office, we're doing this. So we defined the expectations in advance. So last March 14, when the lockdown was announced, of course, meron ng mga advanced kaming expectations kung ano yung pwedeng gawin at hindi pwedeng gawin. Keep doing the doable and moving the movable, then slide push if necessary. Doing the doable, maraming pwedeng gawin. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na dahil hindi tayo magkakasama, so maraming hindi magagawa. In a political office, medyo mahirap ng konti. But in a legislative office, kayang-kaya lang siya. So there are things na pwedeng gawin, so gawin. Pwedeng ma-convince, i-convince. May mga projects na kailangan i-push natin. Then track progress day to day. Importante yung daily actions kasi nag-lead to the results. So hindi pwedeng magpabaya ka kung ano nangyari kahapon. So I do the 5 o'clock check every day. At 5 p.m., let me know what's the problem. Ano yung progress natin? So crucial siya for a political office like we do. Next one is about discipline. Kasi itong quarantine, itong lockdown, marami yung nawala yung focus eh. Kasi akala nila, mabilis na to, mababalik agad. So nawala ng focus at nawala ng sense of urgency. So we have to cure that lack of focus and lack of urgency. Ang pinaka-crucial dyan is discipline. Then the last one is about avoiding the 2 killer eyes. Tawag ko sa kanila killer eyes because it's about isolation and inaction. Naka-quarantine ka na nga, gustong-gusto mo pa ng ma-isolate. So, ito yung situation na even itong inaction, I was guilty, I think, 2 weeks ago about inaction. There was a group of 40 construction workers stranded in Parañaque. So, parang naiisip ko na pwede namang hindi gawin eh. Pero, at the end of the day, you realize, kailangan siya gawin. So, even though you are in isolation, marami kang pwedeng gawin mo. So, pag inalagaan mo si isolation and inaction, at the end of the day, ang laking problema for your organization. So, ito yung 3. And the last slide na ipapakita ko is meron akong wall reminders. Wall reminders, every 2 years or 4 years meron ako nito. So, in 1998, yun nga, sabi ko sa Boy Scout, may nagsabi sa akin na form your line and follow the leader. That ignited my interest na gusto ko rin maging leader. In 2002, I hope maalala ni Ben, Secretario, my batchmate. Sabi ng speaker sa amin, we have high hopes for you. Lagi kong binabalikan yan. In 2006, during the Ayala Young Leaders Program, sinabi ng speaker sa amin, don't give up on your country. Please don't. Then in 2008, there's a tycoon who told us in China, go back and help your country. Umuwi kami. Then in 2012, there's a leap of faith. In 2016, I got a call. I was with the United Nations Development Program this time. I got a call from my former boss. She asked, can you go back to Congress and manage the other congressional office? Siyempre, sino ba naman ang aayaw? That's your former boss calling you. So, I said yes, then I'm back in government. 2018, it's a pay it forward. It's about the Philippines hosting the Asia Pacific Regional Southeast Forum, and I said yes. 2022, blanco yan. Okay, so ito yon. Ito yung nasa wall ko. Yan. One photo there is, yan, 10 outstanding Boy Scouts ni batchmate ko po si Ben dyan. Siya yung pinaka-cute dyan, si Ben. Yan, yung first line dyan, hindi siguro makikita. The first line is, we have high hopes for all of you. Nasa wall ko yung piece of paper na to. It reminds me all the time, ang taas-taas ng expectation sa'yo. So, huwag kang tumigil. Next, ito, it's a rare photo of Ayala Young Leaders Program. Nasa Inquirer. So, nasama po ako sa photo. So, nilagay ko po ito sa wall ko. Medyo putulan ng konti. Don't give up on your country. Because the leadership with values is the battle cry of the Ayala Young Leaders Program. So, nasa wall ko po ito. Then, the next one, ito. Life is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And what gets you through life is a deeper sense of commitment. Ito yung like kong binabalik-balikan. Your commitment to serve is very crucial. Ayan. Then, the last one, ito na yung sabi ko kanina. In 2008, he told us, help our country. So, ito na yung mga nakita ko kayong picturean kasi nasa office yung iba. So, this ends my my presentation about my leadership journey. So, I hope may na-pick up po kayo. Maraming salamat. Madaming nga salamat for listening.
Marvin, thank you for that. Wow. It's parang wala. How do you say it? Really hinges you to your ideas and then your ability to really move forward. So what I got struck lang is ano to, that ano to, yung sa Boy Scout, that falling in line. So I mean like to all of our to all of our viewers right now, parang like do they really need to go? Kasi like parang right now people are really disillusioned with with leadership, and alam mo yun, parang people have this mindset of perfection at all cost. But I mean, you really cannot really achieve
Correct.
it. But on your end, how do you how do you maintain that energy to really go back to your core, to where you came from, kung saan nagsimula lahat para tuloy-tuloy? I mean, what's a constant inspiration that you have?
Kuya Ban, ganito kasi siya. So, lahat tayo dumadaan doon sa sangandaan. Yung may question tayo lagi, saan ka patungo, di ba? So, when you're confused, when you don't know kung tama pa ba or mali itong ginagawa mo, I always go back to basic. So babalikan ko kung saan ako nag-start. What's my first question? Lagi kong tinatanong yun, bakit mo to ginagawa? Why do you want to lead? So babalik na naman ako sa sagot na, kasi may commitment ako. My commitment is to make a difference. And doon na naman ako babalik. So always I go back to basic. So yung playbook kasi is yung Scout, Oath, and Law eh. So nandun na siya lahat na questions ng is it right, is it wrong, why proceed, why continue. So nandun na siya mismo. So I stick to basic pag may problema. Pag may nasa sangandaan ako.
Well, thank you for that, Marvs. Actually, what's really very distinct rin on the foundation that you have is the membership that you have, for in the Boy Scouts. Actually, I'm part of it rin.
Yes.
Can you say something to all of? We have some Boy Scout viewers. Actually, I think these are your friends. I mean, can you? Alam mo yung parang ako naniniwala pa rin na may napakalaki ng role ng Boy Scout in really parang shaping and really creating a very good leadership foundation. So
yeah.
Can you give some inspiring thoughts then on our Boy Scout viewers? Kasi normally alam mo yun, parang di ba before, I think Boy Scout was there even prior to all of this digital platform. Pero right now, can you inspire more Boy Scouters to be more involved in activities, particularly in nation building?
Yeah, very crucial kasi ang role ng Boy Scouts of the Philippines is more on the life skills dapat, life skills. But right now, we are innovating. And makikita na natin sa Boy Scouts of the Philippines na nagmo-move na rin siya into yung mga digital platform. Iba na yung yung mga kabataan ngayon parang gusto nila digital. Tayo dati, Kuya Ben, maglalaro tayo ng hide and seek. Magna-tying tayo, magpapatayo tayo ng tower. Ngayon kasi iba na. Nandun na sila sa internet. So, Boy Scout is of course, nag-evolve din siya. There's a jamboree on the internet. There's a jamboree on the air. So, marami na rin mga ibang ways to participate. Meron na rin sila ngayon, yung about agriculture, parang farming, pero webinar. So, the organization is evolving. So, at the end of the day, kasi nasa parents pa rin siya. So, if kung may mga parents na nanonood, sobrang importante na i-allow po natin yung mga anak natin to join the scouting movement. Not just for the life skills, not just for the uniform, but for me kasi, deep inside, yung community service na ginagawa namin sa Boy Scouts dati, hindi ko alam na mata-translate ko siya into public service. Yun yung pinaka-crucial for me. So, you will never know na yung pagta-tree planting natin in 1998, in 2000. Well, ngayon in Congress, we're moving na gawing mandatory yung tree planting. So it connects to the agenda. It connects to the policy later on when you are in your career as a public servant. So yun lang.
Yeah, so Marvs, thanks for that, and we'll be reserving some of the questions actually coming in our open forum. Okay, thank you, Marvin. Mm-hmm. So we'll proceed. Speaker, thank you. So we proceed to our next speaker. He's actually the regional vice president of the Ilocandia region in 2017 of JCI. A fellow a young leader of JCI and of Ilocandia region. May we call on Mr. Lian Rimando. Hello, Lian. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I would like to thank Steve for inviting me to tonight's webinar. I am presently here in La Union, so naimbag nga rabii kada kayo amin. Good evening. So, a lot of you are probably wondering what JCI is. So, JCI, it stands for Junior Chamber International. We are a non-government organization of young entrepreneurs and professionals, those who belong to the cluster of 18 to 40-year-old young leaders. So how do I, paano ko ba i-continue yung talk ng ating first speaker? First, my leadership journey is somewhat a little different. So, you see in JCI, you are given 1 year to lead, meaning they elect you in a certain position and you have exactly 1 year to serve that position. So in my case, I became the local organization president in 2013, but that was not originally the plan. See, there was somebody who was slated to serve that position, but in the last minute, she had to turn it down because of health reasons. So our local organization at that time, they hit a crossroad and they were wondering, sino kaya ang pwede natin ipaupo, so to speak. So I was the choice of the Council of Past Presidents. So that catapulted me to that leadership journey because I don't want to say I did not really have a choice, but you know, parang that is how I believe leaders are born, is when you are asked to step up to serve a higher position. So from that moment on, I vowed to, okay, I will be the face of the local organization for this year. And the year after that, I continued serving the organization. And I am proud to say, this 2020, this is already my 10th year with Junior Chamber International. So when Steve asked me to speak, I was not really quite sure what the topic was. But then when he sent me the pro mats, nakita ko na leadership. So I said, maybe one thing that I can discuss during the webinar is, the type of leadership that is required during this pandemic, because what is happening now is totally unprecedented. So I said, maybe I can talk about that. So as of the moment, probably there are so many questions with what's happening in the world. So what's next for the companies, for the employees? So what's next? How bad is the situation? How long do we have to put up with this work schedule na ganito? How gravely are we affected, or how should we respond as individuals, or how should we respond as a company or an organization? So there are numerous questions. So the type of leadership na we have to exhibit now more than ever is something that is out of the very out of the ordinary dapat. So my first suggestion would be, you have to show support to your what do you call that, to your can I say employees, or your teammates. You have to show emotional and mental support. You have to support their emotional and mental health, diba? So how do you do that? So first, probably you have to acknowledge that this is really happening. COVID-19 is really happening. This pandemic is really happening. The worst thing that a leader can do, probably now with the kind of situation that we have now, is to downplay it. Na parang sabihin mo na, hindi naman yan serious, hindi naman tayo apektado because you can see the figures in our province. We're not, wala naman infected, or we don't have that much active cases as compared to other provinces. So that's not a really good thing to do. Okay, so first you acknowledge na it's really here and we have to deal with it. Don't downplay the situation. So if you're a leader, so your teammates, you have to monitor if there are signs of struggles. You have to monitor if there's a certain teammate who is showing distress, or suddenly that teammate of yours has poor performance. So as a leader, you have to be aware, right? So you have to encourage them. Second is, you have to encourage people to connect. You have to check in. You have to tell them, oh, kumusta kayo? You have to encourage people to connect, even if when you say connect, it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical connection. So it can be done virtually. You can host Zoom meetings. I think my trend na nga ngayon, it's called e-numan. So that can be another thing. So you have to encourage your teammates to connect because nasa isolation na nga tayo, di ba? So it's bad naman kung isolated ka na and detached ka pa. So you have to do something or think of ways to encourage your teammates to connect. And another thing, you have to reinforce like an open door policy. Sabihin mo na, I want you guys to remember, uh, I want everybody to know that my door stays open, quote unquote. I'm just a call away, I'm just a beep away. If there are any problems or if there is anything that I can help you with, do not hesitate to reach out. That is another thing that you can do. And another thing, you have to model healthy work habits. So, sabi nila, there are studies that show that actually working from home is a lot more stressful than reporting to the office. So I'm not really one to talk about that because the kind of work that I do, I'm really required to go to work from Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. But I have been reading a lot of articles that talk about the kind of stress that employees go to because they're required to work from home, and yun na parang you've already demolished the work-life balance na sinasabi nila because one of the policies there is you don't bring home work, di ba? Dapat hindi ka mag-uuwi ng trabaho. But what happens when you're forced to work from home? So what a leader can do during this pandemic to address that is probably to just stay up to date. So you have to know, you have teammates who work at a certain region, and then you have to know na, oh, okay, at this point in time, yung region na to, they're under this type of quarantine. So meaning, yung mga teammates ko who are living there, restricted ang movement nila as compared to another teammate of mine who's living in another community na hindi naman ganun ka-restricted ang movement. So you have to stay updated about the health responses which are relevant to your team. Now, you also have to define your boundaries. Defining boundaries meaning, since work from home nga, di ba? Sabi nung first speaker natin kanina, he has that like a cut-off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon na you have to tell me what's going on so we can do something about it at 5 o'clock. I believe that's a very healthy thing to do. Is you still have to set your boundaries in terms of the work hours and the deadlines. Even if we try to be flexible with the deadlines, it's also good that you be consistent. That there is still a fixed deadline that has to be met by the end of the day, so to speak. Now, lastly, there is still a need, perhaps. I mean, probably there's still a need to reinforce the importance of work-life balance. Now, how do we do that? So, sabi nga nila, it's quite impossible now. But one thing that a leader can do is to tell his teammates that work-life balance is still very much possible. You can do that by, you set your boundaries and you just try to communicate with your team members and tell them, okay, if there's anything that I can do to help for you to achieve that so-called work-life balance, let me know so I can do something about it. Because with the kind of schedule that we have now, with this pandemic that's happening right now, everything is, lahat tayo parang gulat na gulat. We did not think that this would be possible. Not in my entire lifetime would I even imagine na mangyayari yung ganito eh. So I believe that what's important now is to have a good communication with your team and tell them, we are in the same boat. So whatever it is that you need for you to have a better perspective with what's happening, for you to have a healthier emotional and mental outlook, just let me know so we can do something about it. Now, lastly, what we can do as leaders now is we have to lead with empathy, because with what's happening right now, I think we have built a culture of very insensitive na tayo towards other people, just because we are not the ones affected by it, diba? So you have to lead with empathy, and you have to strive for flexibility, and you have to model ways to prioritize health and well-being. So that ends my discussion with leadership during this pandemic.
Lian, thank you very much for that wonderful sharing. Actually, what was
Thank you, Ben.
glaring, yeah, what on what you have said is in terms of like you getting, let's say, the leadership position in JCI, like what were the struggles that you had, like for example, that the responsibility was passed on, so like what kind of stepping up, or like what kind of preparation did you do, because it's actually a bigger shoes to fill, so how did you able to manage it?
Well, I had, yeah, you're right. I had big shoes to fill. So what I did was, uh, I had to let go of a few things in my life. So I am not one to believe kasi na you can have everything. I mean, you can have everything, but maybe in different degrees. So when I stepped up to the leadership plate, I had to let go of a few things, like a part of my social life. Unload din ako sa work, and as I served as the president for that year and the successive years after that, I tried to tell myself that I should not micromanage, because for as long as the team, we are in the same page. If the people who are working with you, you're all on the same page, then you shouldn't worry about the thing. Hindi mo dapat sila micromanage. You just have to trust that they know what to do and that everything will work out perfectly.
Okay, thank you for that, Lian. I think it's very well, all leadership roles that you assume really take so much responsibility. But I think the how we as leaders would manage it, I think that's the key factor of success. You mentioned a
Yes.
while ago about working from home. Yeah, on my end, I do work from home, and
Mm-hmm.
in terms of challenging, it's totally a different animal. And I think there's so much things pa that we need to explore,
Mm-hmm.
particularly on how to properly, or I should say, humanize the context of working from home. And another
Yes.
thing, actually, Lian, maganda na na-mention mo, because when you talk about work from home, I don't really like get also the point of how would leadership be manifested unless otherwise you had the experience already. So technically, if let's say you are two different individuals interacting with each other and you don't have any
Mm-hmm.
experience working with each other, I think in terms of, let's say, leadership influence, or yeah, motivating, inspiring, it will really take some time before you achieve
Yes.
something compared to the regular point that you have interacted on a regular
Mm-hmm.
basis. Yeah.
Yes, and
So I
you
think
also have
it's
to.
very challenging. But on your end,
Yes.
how do you juggle things? Yeah.
You just have to
Go
remember
ahead,
that
Lian. Mm-hmm.
there are different leadership styles that are not. I mean, it varies from one person to another. You cannot have one leadership style for all of your teammates. It doesn't work like that. So you have to definitely observe, and you have to assess whether this type of leadership will work for this type of person. Because if you're a result-driven type of manager, you have to adjust in order to. You have to strike a balance between you know um, achieving those results and creating camaraderie between you and the rest of the team.
Yeah. We want to take some few thoughts, Lian, on your. We want some your feel on. Well, where is pandemic COVID-19, and well, almost all of the experts are saying that it's here actually for, let's say, a period of 2 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at that, perhaps with all of these leadership traits that we have on in this pandemic era, can you actually cite in your own personal experience, say three leadership traits that one leader should actually be having?
Well, first you have to be extremely patient. So you have to be extremely patient with everything that's happening, and everybody's transitioning from the way things were done to how we are coping with the new normal. So you have to be extremely patient. You cannot be demanding and tell them, oh, I want this to happen and I want this type of result when you do not really know for a fact how they are doing from their respective communities. So you have to be patient. Second is you have to have, you have to be flexible, meaning uh, you have to know when too much is too much. You have to know when you have to step in and help your teammate. You have to be flexible. Like what I said, a certain type of leadership does not always work for everybody. So you have to be flexible. It doesn't always work for everybody. So kailangan it varies for you to reach those results. And lastly, you have to be emphatic because you have to have a empathy now more than ever because hindi tayo pare-pareho ng pinagdadaanan. It differs from one person to another. You may have it. You're probably okay. You still have a roof over your head. 3, 4, 5 meals a day. But it's different for another person who's living below their means or living. It's different. That's what I'm trying to say. It's different with everybody else. So kailangan may compassion, may leadership na may compassion. That's what you have to be patient, you have to be flexible, and you have to be emphatic.
Okay, so thank you for that, Lian. We will be reserving the next questions in our open forum. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. So on our we now proceed to our third speaker. He's actually the retail head of Gandan Kalikasan Inc. Well, of course, who doesn't know human nature? Well, a fellow AY, a fellow colleague on the Boy Scout. May I call on a Bicolano, Mr. Ben Secretario. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Kuya Ben. Okay, can I share my screen?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so can you see my screen? Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kuya Ben, for inviting me here. Marhay na bang Gisendo Gabos? I'm Ben Secretario. I'm from Bicol, but currently based here in Quezon City, but I'm really wanting to go home and be with my family. But I'm really happy that this happened. This webinar, because this is a sort of getting connected with my social group. And thank you again, Kuya Ben, and for Ayala Young Leaders Alliance, Bicol United, as one of your alumni, and then for Runcation for this invite. So when I was invited by Kuya Ben about talking on leadership strategies in the new normal, like I did not hesitate to say yes, because I think this is really an opportune time for us to discuss strategies on how we will be able to lead properly, considering that we are at the cusp of new age. So let me start. I'm representing actually the social enterprise sector or corporate sector also, particularly in the social enterprise. As the retail head of Gandan Kalikasan or Human Nature, it's really like challenging considering that we are fighting against the giants of the industry. At the same time, we are supporting our advocacies. So when I was asked about leadership strategies in the new normal, basically, I would want to focus on this context. Okay. So I'd be discussing about industry leadership, how human nature is coping with the new normal, and then I'd be tackling about the organizational leadership because, as I have said, this is really unprecedented. But at the same time, we need to accede to the fact that we need to change. There are a lot of things that we were doing before that may not be the same or that may not be applicable this time. So a lot of organizational decisions, a lot of organizational concerns have to be discussed so that we could adopt to the new normal. And also on a personal note, I would also want to tackle on the personal leadership because as mentioned by Lian a while ago, di ba? Parang kahit tayo, we are also adjusting. This is something we have not experienced before. So kahit tayo may sarili tayong adjustment, and we also have to check on our development, on our adjustment. So I'd be sharing with you on that aspect. Okay, so as mentioned by Kuya Ben, I'm from Human Nature. Human Nature is a social enterprise brand of genuinely natural beauty, personal, and home care products. And these are all proudly made here in the Philippines. So as a social enterprise, we are known for our pro-poor, pro-Philippines, pro-environment advocacies. At the same time, we are promoting the consumption of natural products in the retail industry. So, social enterprise, it's really challenging to be one. At the same time, going mainstream is also another challenge because we are really fighting in a mainstream industry and fighting with the giants of the retail space. So we need to be known, that's one, and we need to compete. So that in itself was a challenge, and then here comes the new normal. Okay, so let me talk about the industry leadership. We've known that the new normal will create new habits and new norms. So these are research coming from Nielsen, and we've got study coming from the learnings in China. So as China returns to a new normal, there are sweeping learnings from their experience, and it can trickle down to the neighboring countries like the Philippines. It has been a very challenging time, and consumer habits have changed, and manufacturers and retailers are looking ahead to turn the crisis into an opportunity. So I'm really, as a social enterprise, we are really looking at how these things, how this crisis will turn out as an opportunity for us. Okay, so because of the new normal, there's also the need to embrace and meet the new consumer and the new retail industry. So the new consumer in the new normal, these people have heightened health awareness, focused on quality and safety assurance, renewed desire to stay at home, less loyal, more experimental, tighter budgets for the masses. And these are challenges that we are facing as a social enterprise. We need to get into competition, or we get into the market having this mindset from the consumers. And at the same time, the new retail will have a better e-commerce adoption. So it also has continued rise of neighborhood stores, strong retailer supplier partnerships, and technology catalysts. So with this in mind, we need to adapt to this new change. We need to adapt to this new normal because that's how we will be able to be agile, and that's how we will be able to be relevant to our consumers. So we've reviewed the data from the studies. So as a leader, you need to have this data, because when you create decisions, you have to back it up with data. You just don't you just don't decide on things based on emotion or sometimes logic, but you have to marry emotion and logic so that you can have a wise decision. So having this in mind, we've learned that our consumers are getting information more in social media and TV, and we know the for us, we don't have advertising in television. Plus, we have concerns in the closure of a big network, and we also know that most of our consumers now are thinking more for the family more than self. There was a time in the industry that the campaign is more on self-development, self-care, but because of the new normal, more people are caring for the entire welfare for the welfare of the entire family. So 64% are optimistic that pandemic in the Philippines will end in the next months. But looking at how we are we are encountering the problems and how the government is resolving the pandemic, I think this will still last longer than 6 months. And then most Filipinos feel concerned about COVID-19, but concern for the family outweighs concern for self. So the data is saying that they are really thinking about their family. And then retailers, our accounts have also supported the government to prevent the spread of the virus. So a lot of our mall partners have shut down or shut operations because they are supporting the government's initiative. So these have impact on our business, because in human nature we have retail as a business unit. We also have our branches as another business unit, and then we also have our web and telesales as another business unit. So when the malls closed, so it really had an impact on one of our business units. And during that time, supermarkets are allowed to operate. So that's really my business. That's my business unit, and I had to accede to that role to take in the responsibility of bringing revenue to the company, because my account is the only one is the only one approved to open during this period. So there was a period that retail as a business unit of the company had to take all the revenue, so that we will not lay off people, because as a social enterprise, it's one thing that we will never do, to lay off our people, because in the context of bayanihan, we are all in this together. So lahat kami kailangang mag-stretch ng aming mga resources, ng aming mga sarili, so that more people will benefit from the revenues that we are generating, particularly our own people. Because as a social enterprise, we really have people from the bottom of the pyramid, and it's only through human nature that they are getting the kind of dignified living that they are enjoying pre-ECQ. So we've got these observations from the field, because we want to really address the situation effectively and efficiently as a business unit. So we've also studied a lot of research, so that when we create decision, when we create strategies, it's not because we just thought of it. It's because there's data supporting it. Okay, these are just some of the data that we used when we created our strategy, and it really shows a lot of our leadership as a business unit in the face of pandemic for our industry. So good thing human nature is considered as essential product. And right now, our retail partners are considering us as a potent partner so that more and more people will continue to buy from from their stores. So these are just some of the data that we got, and this is really something that will build us as a leaders for credibility. Kasi meron tayong pinanggagalingan kung bakit tayo nag-decide sa mga bagay-bagay. And then we also look at how or where is human nature in the new normal in the retail industry. We discuss it with my team, we discuss it with different departments so that when we create strategies, ito ay akma sa kung ano ang napapanahon. Okay? So before the pandemic, we were really thinking about the omni-channel retail strategy. It's about creating a multi-channel approach so that our consumers will have a unified experience when they buy our products from different sources. So ako, my business unit is more on the brick and mortar store, but we are also shifting to having online accounts in our brick and mortar accounts. So even the retailers are also shifting towards having their own online platforms. And the pandemic made it possible for us to really capture the omni-channel presence. So in this period, we have increased omni-channel presence by expanding to online channels. So we are in Lazada, we are in Zalora, and even the supermarket accounts that we are in have already institutionalized their own online partners. So for Robinsons, Walter Mart, Watsons, you can find our products here in these accounts. So both online and in the brick and mortar stores. And then it's also possible for us, even if in pandemic, to expand geographically. So right now, we are expanding in northern Luzon. We are also expanding in southern Luzon, in Metro Manila, and even for Visayas and Mindanao. Diba parang how do you expand in this time where people have limited mobility? But there's really an opportunity for us to take advantage of. So even our retail partners are telling us to expand in these areas. And we are really taking up this as an opportunity so that more and more people will benefit from the natural goodness of our products. And at the same time, sustain our advocacies in helping people take out of poverty, especially this time. You know, I'm really proud that human nature continued to support people affected by the pandemic. So even as employees of the company, we continued pooling resources so that we could sustain our advocacies in helping people, especially those who have lost employment this time. Okay? And we also would want to expand our assortment, particularly the bigger sizes, because yun na nga, parang more and more people are limiting their store visits. So better buy the bigger packs so that that will be enough for them that will be enough to be consumed for 1 month, let's say. So depende kung ano yung consumption rate nila. At the same time, this is also helping our advocacy in reducing plastic waste in the market. So when you buy the bigger sizes, you are already reducing the production of more plastic bottles, so that more and more people will just do refilling of their current bottles. So in retail, we are also expanding on this so that the advocacies will still remain relevant, particularly in this new normal. So that's on the industry leadership. Like human nature as a social enterprise, it offers a wide range of personal beauty and home care products. We still would want to take in leadership in the natural category. And this is not the best time for us to back down. This is really the best time for us to be felt, to be more relevant, so that more and more people who are health conscious will take advantage of the natural goodness of our products. And as I've mentioned a while ago, on the organizational level, it's also a different kind of adjustment. Okay? So this is one of the strategies that I'm sharing with my friends in different webinars that I attended, because I think this is very relevant this time. A lot of people are into entrepreneurship, di ba? Parang you can see a lot of people selling. But entrepreneurship kasi, it's not just about creating a business, but it's about spotting opportunities so that when you face a crisis, you can bounce forward. You don't just bounce back, but you bounce forward. So basically, in the entrepreneurial mindset, with all the things that you know, you have, and the network that you have also, how else can you make use of these factors so that you will create better opportunity? Unlike in the managerial, conventional causal reasoning, that you already have a predetermined outcome. But in the entrepreneurial aspect, you are imagining what the possible outcome would be given your own circumstance. So in our organization, we are really looking at this strategy so that we could expand some more, like the expansion that I was mentioning a while ago on the geography, on the assortment, and also in a different business model aside from the brick and mortar. Okay? And also in the decision making. As a leader, because we are in a different situation now, there are things that we need to learn, relearn, and unlearn. And as a leader, we need to create decisions that will help us move forward. A lot of times we decide based on logic or based in emotion. But now in the new normal, we need to marry this. That's why we need to have a wise mind. So also in working with other teams. So before, probably in other organizations, and even in my organization before, we were working in silos, like your department, my department, my department. Like we don't usually collaborate. But right now, it's more important that we collaborate. Like we need to work as a chain. So we need to share information because there are new informations in the market now. And if we don't use this information, if we don't share this information, we will not be able to adapt, or we will not be able to address effectively the challenges of the pandemic. So there's a different way of looking at how we collaborate. It's not working in silos, but working as a chain. Also, we need to take advantage of our relationship, both within the organization and outside the organization. For us, we are working with our accounts, like our retail partners. We should sustain this relationship because we are supporting each other this time. So when you have a very effective relationship, it builds your capacity, it builds your capability, and it gives you credibility so that together, malalampasan natin itong pandemic. at malalampasan natin itong crisis na to. So effective relationship is really something that companies, organizations, or startups should be investing on. And also, compassionate communication. Na-mention kanina ni Lian, na parang this time, we don't know how people are adjusting to the pandemic eh. Parang pagkausap mo ngayon, alam mo okay naman siya. But behind, for example, this Zoom meeting or Viber, hindi mo alam how they're managing their time, 'di ba? Hindi mo alam because they are forced to adjust. This is not something na we want to adjust on our own, but we are forced to adjust. So, naisip ko nga parang before pinag-uusapan yung mga love language in the organization. Ngayon parang feeling ko kailangan na rin isama sa love language yung video call, just reaching out to your teammates, asking them how they are doing. This is really a compassionate communication strategy at kailangan na ma-feel ng mga teammates natin na we are still here. Alam mo yun, parang hindi man tayo nagkikita face to face, we cannot feel each other physically, but the words that we say, the availability when they need it, and then just reaching out, I think that's a needed strategy for every leader this time. And also, okay, so that's on the organizational part. On a personal note, I also would want to highlight on the personal leadership, and dapat lahat din tayo meron din tayong mindfulness on how we are developing as a leader, 'di ba? Parang if we are a leader, dapat nag-i-influence din tayo sa ibang tao to be leaders as well, and looking at how they are also developing in this unprecedented time. So as part of the personal leadership, I'm really advocating for the 8 dimensions of wellness. And sobrang appropriate niya at this time na yes, work from home tayo. There are things na we are enjoying now. Ako particularly, I'm enjoying the gift of time. Hindi na ako kailangang ma-stuck sa traffic. So instead of staying sa labas, natatraffic ako, I just devote time on developing myself, checking on my own wellness. So for example, just to run through, and this will be quick, on the emotional side, coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationship. This time para ang hirap mag-create ng new relationship kasi yun na nga, we are physically isolated from each other. Like ako, I'm living alone. 'Di ba? Parang how? Paano ako magsa-survive na I'm living alone? But with this webinar and with the webinars I attended, it's keeping my emotional wellness in place. So it's giving me a sense of security and very, very reassuring that my relationship with people, with friends are still intact. And it's really helpful for every leaders na dapat the emotional side, the mental health side of our well-being, maprotektahan natin. Also on the spiritual side, like ako, every Sunday I have my spiritual squad. I have my Sunday habit. I'm attending the feast, and then it's giving me a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning in life. Na parang this is the right time for us to really look into what God wants us to focus, na parang we need to redefine our purpose, we define our being, so that pagkatapos nito or kahit during this period, we are giving value to other people because tayo, alam natin kung ano yung purpose natin. And then, on the intellectual side, recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills. Ang daming webinars, and sabi ko nga, parang the pandemic, the new normal, requires a new kind of skill set. So, kailangan na tayo, nag-a-adapt din tayo sa skill set na to. like we need to improve our digital skills. Kailangan natin na maka-adapt sa mga new ways of doing things, because in that way, we will be able to influence some more because tayo naka-adapt na mismo. And then, on the physical aspect, so recognizing the need for physical activity, diet, sleep, and nutrition. So the time is really giving us that chance to think about our physical well-being. So I also give time to exercise. Just to give you a trivia, I already lost 10 kilos over the period of 6 months. And natutuwa ako because it's giving me a sense of achievement. And at the same time, nakakapag-influence din ako sa ibang tao to also take time to think of their physical well-being. And also in the environmental aspect, nakakatuwa na may mga plantita, mga plantito na, because this is really giving us the sense of stimulating, positive, and pleasant environment where they are in. So a lot of people are into this, at nakakatuwa na people are recognizing the need to have a good environment so that our well-being will be protected. And also on the financial, this time kahit na may resources problem, I still continue giving tithe and supporting social causes. Yun na nga, sa company meron kaming mga fund drive so that we could help some more. And this kind of gesture is really like an assurance that, hey, you are okay. You can continue helping. And this is also one thing na kailangan din natin i-check this time, kasi we don't know how long will the pandemic be and how long we will be affected financially because of this crisis. So kailangan din natin na maging mapanuri at maging i-assess natin yung capacities natin financially. And at the same time, occupational. Ako sobrang happy ako with the kind of work that I'm doing in human nature. I'm happy that the pandemic happened, that I'm in human nature, because it's giving me a sense of purpose in this time, and at the same time giving more value to other people. So I'm really satisfied with the things that I'm giving value to because of the kind of work that I'm doing in my company. And at the same time, social. So this one is really developing a sense of belongingness, a sense of well-developed support system. And kahit na very challenging siya, sobrang reassuring that social groups are needed to everyone, so that we would feel we still belong in a family or in a society. So yon, this is really my personal advocacy now, and I hope na mas matuloy-tuloy ko pa siya even after the pandemic. And I also recommend the attendees, my fellow panelists, to really look into your wellness so that we could give more, we could share more, and we could give value to more people even after this one. So as a parting phrase, yes, COVID-19 as a crisis created the new normal. As leaders, considering the situation and spotting opportunities, we don't just bounce back from the crisis. We should more so bounce forward to the new normal, to a better normal rather. So sana gamitin natin tong opportunity so that more and more people will benefit from us, and we will bounce forward to a better normal. So that's it for me, Kuya Ben.
Yeah, hello Ben. Thank you for the very wonderful sharing. I mean, wow. It's like parang ano to, we had a very good masterclass session. But the key points that I take away on your talk is really highlighting on leadership that is actually data-driven, and at the same time, the openness for collaboration. I think these are really crucial points in really enticing more engagement, more participation. So in terms of like ano to, parang Ben, in your experience, do you have a balance of like how much data? I mean, like how do you juggle between data and then the soft side? How do you blend in to
Yeah.
come up with a rational leadership decision?
Yeah. So when we are faced with a situation where we need to create big decision for the company that will have an impact to our people, binabalance ko talaga yung what data do we have right now and how this will impact emotionally on the well-being of our people. So ako, when we create these decisions, we just don't want that our decision is driven by kung ano yung nangyayari sa labas. Okay? We are also checking on kung ano yung kaya naming maibigay as a company. Highlighting on the effectual reasoning, on the entrepreneurial mindset. When we create decision, we check first on the knowledge that we know. It means the data that we know, and also the kind of impact that it will do to the people that will be affected by the decision. So when we have that balance, that's the time we create the decision. Of course, merong ma-compromise kasi hindi mo naman talaga 100% consider yung data. At meron din mako-compromise on the emotional side kasi hindi mo naman siya 100% consider. But at least when you merge it and you decide on the wise mind, the decisions will cover partly of the logic and partly of the emotion. So that's really an exercise that we are doing this time. Every day we need to create a decision. And kapag nag-create kami ng decision, meron talaga siyang impact in the future. So kailangan na we bring ourselves back to the rational, the wise mind so that wala kaming makakaligtaan in both sides. So yun.
Okay, so thank you for that, Ben. We serve other questions in our open forum. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Kuya Ben.
Okay. So before we go to our last speaker, I just want to shout out lang all of our viewers from Cebu, Iloilo, Rizal, Tagbilaran, Davao del Norte, Quezon City, Sarangani, Olongapo, Tarlac, La Union, Lanao del Norte, Caloocan, Muntinlupa, Tabaco Albay, Tacloba, Naga City, Samal, Davao del Norte, Pangasinan, Rizal, Daet, Southern Leyte, and Taclan. So maraming salamat po sa pagpapanood nyo, and I hope that you're really getting some learnings on the insights that our panelists are actually sharing. Okay, and the next speaker, of course, is actually very close to my heart. Classmate ko to of not so long ago. I won't even mention the year.
Please don't. Please don't, Kuya Ben.
I won't. And I think in terms of her passion on the advocacy that she's really into, you see the energy 1001%. So I won't actually keep it long. May I call on the Vice President of Gawad Kalinga, Miss Issa Santos. Take it away, Issa.
Hi, Kuya Ben. Why did you say that we were classmates? My whole plan was to call you Kuya this whole time kasi lahat sila nagkukuya eh. So masyado kang revealing.
Okay.
Bisto tuloy tayo, bisto. Sira ang plano. Good evening everyone. Mayong gabi sa tanan, mayong gabi sa atong mga igsuon. Ano nga sa Bicolano, Ben? Marhay na
banggi.
Hala, nakakahiya. Ay, fake na Bicolano. Hindi, Bicolano talaga ako. Yan. So, I always start my story this way. I'll share my screen because my leadership journey is actually, I don't know. I find it accidental. And I always start this way. Let me just share it. With a story about my dad, and this is how I know Ben. So it's actually a son made for who he calls Nono Pingoy, and that's my dad. And he napaka graphic ng letter niya. Sabi niya, "Thank you, Nono Pingoy, for saving my mom from a gunshot. And I'm sure that you are happily resting in heaven with God. Thank you. Happy birthday." And so I always begin my stories this way because I always pull back to that one pivotal moment where my dad was shot in front of me when I was 13 years old. And it's actually the 28th year, this month, since that happened. And it's always such an important part of me to look back at that because it made me realize how much heartbreak can really become just sort of the very reason where we find our purpose. And so I take it from this context. And I had been carrying this burden for a really long time until I got to join an organization called Gawad Kalinga. And so I had just graduated from college, and Couples for Christ was looking to start a movement of people who just wanted to do something for the poor. And so there I was a heartbroken accidental leader, and that's just the truth of it. Heartbroken, not just because of my dad, but another heartbreak, which we don't want to talk about tonight. But I really can't think about myself as a purposive leader. So unlike most of the people who are here, I think you really set out to make a difference. For me, I was really kind of just lost and heartbroken. And somehow I found my way to GK. I was very lucky. And so when I think about that and all the early years that we were starting Gawad Kalinga, my major learning, and this is something that I always share with people, is I've always believed that whoever God calls, He enables. Because when I think about who I was, when I was 19, when we started GK, I had no business becoming part of a movement. I don't think I had any particular skills whatsoever. I don't think I had a lot of expertise. I had just graduated from college. All that I had was the willingness to be there and the willingness to say yes. And I think for a lot of us, when we think about leaders, we think about people who are so skilled at what they do, who are so intent on many things. And when we feel lost, perhaps in this time of the pandemic, if you're feeling like you have no sense of purpose or you're just downtrodden because of what happened, maybe you've lost a job, maybe you don't know what to do with your job if you've been furloughed, I really just want you to know that if God calls you, that He will really find a way to bring out purpose in your life. And if we just wait on it and if we just work for it, then it will just happen. Because that really is my story. For people who know me, I don't think I'm a person of anything great, but I do have great faith. And this is all that I've learned in all the 20 years that I've been doing GK. And so when we started, we were a ragtag army. Our dream at that time, this photo that you see was taken very, very early on, baka mga 2003. And I remember saying, we didn't want to just build houses for the poor. What we wanted was to build communities, and we want to transform the country, one community at a time. Now, this was a bold statement at that time because guess how many communities we were at? We were in one community and we were thinking about changing the whole country. In fact, I distinctly remember having one conversation with the late President Cory Aquino. She was such a fan of Gawad Kalinga. And I remember being called to her home and us having a meeting with her. And we were talking about all our grand dreams. We were talking about ending poverty for 5 million families. And we were in one community. And I distinctly remember her saying, I think that you're a little too ambitious. And I think we should have gone out of that room feeling a little disheartened. But all that it did to us was we spoke to her and said, we'll still try. And so today, I can't imagine what would have happened if we had stopped what we were doing. But I'm very proud to say that today Gawad Kalinga is in all these little dots that you see, over 3,000 communities. As far as Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, there are actually very few provinces in this country that I've not been to. And that's really because of the work of so many heroes like me, just ordinary people trying to do something, make a difference. And today, this is the amazing work that God has done through us. And so, what I've learned in that 20-year journey is that one should never be afraid to dream big and to start small. If you're really passionate about it, I don't think anything starts off really big. I'm such a fan of human nature. Everything that I use is practically human nature product. And I distinctly remember how human nature started. One of my dearest friends, a sister to me, Anna Wilk, I know that we were having dinner at her house and human nature had just started. And at that time, her sister, Anna, and her husband, Dylan, were the ones taking customer calls. As in, they were the ones taking the calls. I remember Dylan having to deliver. I remember a good friend of ours, Luis, calling the customer service phone, speaking to Dylan and pretending that he was an irate customer. And I remember how small almost everything starts. And I think if God is planting a seed in your heart, especially in this pandemic and this new normal where anything can happen, and it's also ripe for new ideas because people are just looking for different ways of doing things. If God plants a seed in your heart, no one can tell you that you shouldn't do it. And I think if you start small, you shouldn't be ashamed of starting small, but you should also dream very, very big. Because I think if we said, if we were in one community and we said, okay, maybe let's go to 5 communities. But no, we said we would transform the country. And God has actually blessed that plan so much more because we're not just in the Philippines. Gawad Kalinga is actually being replicated in many other parts of the world. And we're very proud to say that we really believe, other than human nature, that Gawad Kalinga is probably one of the best exports of the Philippines, and it is our gift to the world. So please don't ever be scared to start small, but please keep your dreams big. And I say that primarily because these are some of the beautiful communities that we have. And I think when you were thinking about changing the country, so many people just don't believe in it because it seems so impossible. So this is one community that we have. This is one of my favorite photos. This was right after Sendong in Mindanao. And we also know of how Yolanda had devastated the Visayas. And when we think about building communities, because of the scale of the devastation, we also built communities as large as this one. And this is one of our biggest. It has over 2,000 homes, over 2,000 families. And I love this one quote that I want to share with you by a dear friend, Mark Lawrence Cruz. And he said, "The impossibility of the problem can only be met by the infinity of our love." And I'll say that again, just because it took so much of me for these words to sink in. The impossibility of the problem can only be met by the infinity of our love. And I know that we hear this all the time, but this is one truth that I hold on to because I really can say that when you love what you do, then the impossible becomes possible. I think in this new normal, when your why is clear, even if the how can change, I think this is kind of what most people were saying. In this new normal, you can't really do things the same way that you used to do. But if your why is very clear, then your how just comes naturally. And I think if our why is that we want to love people and that we want to love our country or that we want to love a certain product, then whatever challenges we may face, we will always solve it because our why is clear. And I'll always kind of think about this in the context of country because going around the Philippines for our work in Gawad Kalinga, and because of our recent events I'll be honest. Um, Truth be told, there are really some days when I feel, oh my gosh, it's so hard to love the Philippines. And truth be told, there are days when I ask myself, is it even worth it? Is the work we do really going to make a difference because of what's happening with COVID and just the massive hopelessness that's going around? But I very recently saw this photo. This was us at an anti-Marcos rally. And it pulls back to one of our favorite Filipino songs. Aling pag-ibig pa ang hihigit kaya sa pagkadalisay at pagkadakila gaya ng pag-ibig sa tinubuang lupa. Aling pag-ibig pa, wala na nga wala. And I think this is where hope really becomes very powerful. Because I think you can't say that you have hope when everything around you is bright. And at this time, hope has become even more real for me because it's in the waiting. It's in the waiting for something good to happen from the small seeds we plant. Hope is being able to see that there's light despite a massive darkness. I really can't tell you. Sometimes the flicker of light is so small, but it's there. And I know, I still believe in my heart that God didn't make a mistake when he made us Filipino. I watched some of the videos. I'm a fan of Jacinda Ardern. I watched New Zealand and zero COVID cases. I watched some news about other countries who have survived COVID and are now back to normal. And sometimes I wonder, is that even going to happen for our country? But and sometimes I think, is there more that we can do? And there is. What we can do is continue to hope. What we can try to do is to try and do something in the small areas where we work. And let's believe that God didn't make a mistake when he made us with this hair, with this color of skin, with this type of nose. And that something beautiful will come out of it because history has always shown how the Filipino has overcome. And so I hope that when we think about our dreams for our children, when we think about the businesses we want to build or how we're going to rise above this, that we always think about our country, that we always think about our fellow Filipinos, because the only way out is if we go through it together. And so this is our favorite phrase in GK. Love means walang iwanan. This has become even more real for me. I think we speak a lot about the power of presence, how coming into a community that's long been forgotten was such a powerful experience for a lot of us in GK. And so the question really became, during a time of a pandemic when we're working from home or we're stuck at home because the virus is out there, how do you really show presence? And in all of my years, one thing is very clear to me. Leadership isn't about the talent you bring. Leadership isn't about the knowledge that you bring to the table. A lot of times, leadership is just a simple act of telling someone, telling a coworker, telling a customer, telling your boss that no matter what happens, I'm here for you. And I think even more today, even without physical presence, what gets us through most days is really that there are people who love us and who are present for us. And the gift we can give is to do the same for others. And so I kind of echo what most everyone has said. I think when I start my meetings, for example, I always take a bit more time. So meetings for us during COVID are actually taking a little bit longer because we always do check-ins first. And I always try and make sure that the start of meetings are light. And we always ask people, how are you doing? Because I know for a fact that people are really going through something. You can't judge what people are going through. A lot of people will not speak about how challenging this is for them or for their coworker or what they're scared of. But we do need to take the time to be there for them, especially now, because everyone's fighting a battle that maybe we don't know about. And the pandemic has actually allowed me to pull back on a lot of things that I've learned from rock climbing. So I'm an avid rock climber. We go to the gym regularly to climb walls, and then every so often we go outdoors to actually climb rocks. And rock climbing outdoors is a lot like the pandemic. Number one, you have to do it yourself. Maybe you have a belayer, but a lot of times you really feel like you're doing it alone. Number two, there's no set path. No one can tell you where to go because your limbs are different. So the rock plate placements and how you're going to do your climb is going to be different from person to person. Um, and there's always a chance of you falling. No matter how good you are, you take one misstep and you can fall. And what it really taught me, and something that I always share with everyone, is out of difficulties really grow miracles. And this has really been my beautiful experience from COVID. Just last month, I was actually diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. It was quite a surprise. That wasn't something that was kind of in the playbook. And although some parts of it have been difficult, I can also tell you that there's just so many miracles. I think when you realize how each day is such a gift, and when you realize how much you need people, and how you realize that every day is really a miracle, even things like, so I just got out of surgery, and some of them were saying it's possible that you may not be able to move your arm. So when my arm started moving, a lot of things that I took for granted, it really became small miracles that I forgot to thank the Lord for. And I think this is kind of the gift that the pandemic can bring to us, or in my case, to have cancer in a time of COVID. It is the time to really recognize the miracles that God brings into our lives, not just every day, but in every moment. I've come to see so many of the beautiful things about my children, and about my family that I didn't notice before. I've come to realize how much I needed other people and how much my work mattered to me. And so I think if we adjust our lens a little bit, we'll see that in this time of great difficulty, great miracles can also come out of it. And I'll close my little story by sharing with you a prayer that I've always loved ever since I was very young. And I've been praying it a lot more recently because of everything that's been happening. And this is what it's called. It's called Disturb Me, O Lord. I think for some of us who may still have so much to look forward to, we have to really pray and ask the Lord, please disturb me, Lord, when I'm too well pleased with myself, when my dreams have come true because I've dreamed too little, when I've arrived in safety just because I sailed a little too closely to the shore, just because I was a little too safe. But my favorite part of this prayer is towards the end, where it says, stir me, O Lord, to dare more boldly, to venture to wilder seas. Don't you feel like that's the call of God today in this time of pandemic? We can't do what we were used to doing. We have to dare more boldly. Where storms shall show thy mastery, I hope that in the middle of all the storms, you also realize how God is just making everything happen. He's calming the seas for us. And when in losing sight of land, I shall find the stars. In the name of him who pushed back the horizons of my hopes and invited the brave to follow him. I hope that this season brings out courage that you've never seen before in yourself. I hope that it allows you to recognize the miracles that God is doing. And I can't wait to see how God will do great things through each one of us just because we stayed faithful. That's it.
Thank you for that very inspiring message, Isa,
Thought,
as always. I mean, all the energy in the universe. Grabe. I mean, like, ano to, very inspiring. And I don't have any other questions. I mean, you've said it all. But I think, Isa, one thing really, ano to, very clear that what we have said is really, ano to, parang the concept of vouchering, of walang iwanan. Talagang ano to, parang I mean, all of us should actually be one with each other, especially in these times. And I think with the
very
inspiration
true.
that you actually shared, uh, a lot of we're getting so much hearts in the reactions of our viewers, and we thank you for that. So I think we will now proceed to the most important part. I mean, very quick, open forum for everyone, and we just give this one pasada for each, just to actually hear thoughts on Isa, to start on yun, who is your inspiring leader of all times?
Um, for me, it's I don't know if you know her, but it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Um, the I admire her so much because she has achieved so much in her life, but she's also been able to take care of her family. What a lot of people don't know is while she had just given birth, um, her husband fell sick to cancer and she was in school. And so she was taking down notes for her husband, no kidding. She was also finishing law school and she was taking care of a baby. When she had cancer, she also has been battling cancer. She never missed a day in court. Never, not even once. And very recently, she got diagnosed again. And it's her first time in 25 years that she's missed a day in court. And that to me is just outstanding. I think to be able to break the glass ceiling for women, to fight for women's rights, and still be able to really take care of your family and to still achieve so much. I mean, that's just outstanding achievement.
Okay. Thanks for that, Isa. Ben?
For me, the leader that I really look up to of all time, kasi namulat ako sa nation building at that time na ang Gawad Kalinga, yan, at Isa, ang Gawad Kalinga ay sobrang nag-i-inspire ng maraming kabataan. And ako, feeling ko, isa ako sa mga kabataan during that time na talagang binigyan ng pagkakataon na para mag-dream big for the country. So, of course, si Tito Tony Minoto ito. So ito yung time na nakikita ko talaga na yung mga kabataan, they volunteer to go outside, they volunteered their time so that they would help at least one family be lifted out of poverty. So the reason why I'm in human nature now, probably because of the kind of leadership, the kind of influence that Tito Tony has for me. Kasi syempre nga, yung mga anak niya yung founders ng human nature. And at the same time, every day, it's really a testament of love for country and love for more people to be taken out of their situation now. So ako sobrang natutuwa ako with the kind of influence Gawad Kalinga has given on me, at natutuwa din ako sa work ko ngayon sa human nature because I get to live the kind of occupation, life, passion that will give value more to other people. And then another leader, another leader is yung leader namin sa the 10 Outstanding Students of the Philippines, si Ate Pam Layugan. Kasi she was really impressing on us the value of leading, learning, and serving for life, for the nation. So the youth participation in nation building, talagang buhay na buhay yan sa akin even up to this day. At gusto ko din na sana maipasa ko siya sa next generation so that in the new normal, it may be a different way of loving the country, but at least the purpose of serving, learning, leading for the country will stay the same. So yun, sila yung mga leaders that I look up.
Thank you, Ben. How about you, Lian?
For me, it would probably be Angela Merkel of Germany, since she is tinayo niya yung bandila ng kababaihan, being immediate and calm and effective yung leadership niya during this pandemic. So she's probably yung iniidolo kong leader.
Thank you, Lian. And then Marvin?
Our mayor in Zamboanga City, one of the youngest deputy speaker for Mindanao. At the same time, 3 months pa lang siya on the job as mayor, nagka-Zamboanga siege. And she was able to lead Zamboanga City to bounce back and build back better. And for the record, dati pag naririnig mo Zamboanga City, bomba agad. For the last 4 years, wala kang bombang maririnig in Zamboanga City because she invested in security and local peace causes. So she's my inspiring leader of all time. My former boss, si Mayor Ben Climacco.
Thank you for that, Marvin. And then Marvin, the next you start to answer this question. So, what leadership trait must Filipinos have in this time, particularly in this pandemic reality?
Actually, lagi natin sinasabi na resilient talaga yung Pilipino. Laging, pero we have to take into consideration na laging resilient, pero hanggang kailan? So we have to put, let's say for us in government, we have to put something na maging innovative, let's say for funds, for policies, we have to put in place those. Hindi kasi pwedeng sabihin lang na resilient tayo lagi. In this time of crisis, resilient ka tayo, pero we have to do something on the part of government to provide this mechanism to ensure na makaka-recover tayo, bounce forward tayo.
Thank you, Mars. Lian, your leadership trait that Filipinos must have this time.
We have to be good communicators, because with everything that's happening now, I think lahat naman yan maaayos with proper communication. Maaayos or masusolusyonan with proper communication.
Thank you, Lian. Ben?
For me, the leaders should be entrepreneurial. So again, being an entrepreneur is not about having your own business. It's about creating or spotting opportunities in the situation that you are in now. So making use of your situation, looking at the better perspective of it so that you can bounce forward. Kasi mas magiging agile ka, magiging nimble ka if you create or spot opportunities within your situation. And at least you can bring more people with you kasi mas may influence mo sila.
Okay, thank you, Ben. And Issa?
Ako hope. Ako feeling ko in these times when it's really, really dark, a leader has to be hopeful and he has to point to hope. Because I think if we lose that, then there's not going to be much for what's going to encourage us to face the next day. And so that's kind of the challenge that I have for myself also. Like, are you a leader that walks into a room and communicates hope to people? Because if you are, then they will find some reason to continue, diba?
Okay. Thank you for that. And actually, we really don't have so much time, but there's so much question. But again, another round for your powerful statement and parting words for our viewers. Start off with Issa.
I really think it's walang iwanan. I think if there's two simple things that we can always just tell every person that we meet, it's to say, hindi ka nag-iisa dito, whatever it is you're going through, we're just gonna hold your hand and we're gonna see this through together. Then I think that's a way forward.
Okay, then Ben?
I mentioned it a while ago that let's make use of this situation, not just to bounce back, but rather bounce forward, not just to the new normal, but to a better normal. We hope that we can hold on together so that we can all enjoy that kind of better normal that we all deserve.
Thank you, Ben. Then Lian, your parting words for viewers.
You don't have to choose between, if you're made to choose between being good and being right, you have to choose to be good, because being good is being right.
Thank you. And then Marv's?
2022 is very dear. Very political.
Yes.
So,
but it's true. It's true.
Yeah. The theme of leadership is always about change. And the selling point of every politico is always change. Pero lagi tayo nasa short change. So I guess for my parting message is maningil tayo. Let us be more accountable dun sa 2022. Kung alam na natin nangyayari ngayon, ba't pa natin uulitin? So I guess let us be responsible. Let us be lumabas tayo, bumoto.
Yes, please, Filipino.
Yeah.
Kasi nakita na natin eh. So, alam mo yun na parang laging sinasabi, change. Pero, pag nandiyan na nakaupo na, alam naman natin kung ano yung nangyayari. So, 80%, 90%, walang change na nangyayari. Laging hopeful pero wala nga. So, let's tama, Ate Isa. Let's hope that
Nakiki
Filipino
ate pa to.
yes, mas rich si Kuya Ben. So yeah, let's hope na 2022 will be the defining year for the Philippines.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Marvin. And I think for everyone, before they vote, we really encourage more to register because we really need more new blood into this system para we keep ourselves alive and kicking. So guys, grabe, like my heart is really overflowing with ano to, with so much insights, inspiration, and I think if you look at the ano rin, the engagement of our viewers, I mean they're very happy with I mean like that ba, in our own little way that they have given a little ano to, a little of hope, a little of brightness in their lives in this 2 hour session. And I'd like again to thank Marvin, Lian, Ben, and of course Issa for being here and actually sharing and opening this segment on leadership.
Can we
So
please
guys,
take a moment also to say thank you to Ben? Thank you, Ben. Thanks for
Yes, thank you,
doing
Kuya
so
Ben.
much. Doing so
Thank
much
you,
for
thank you.
Bicol. Doing so much for our families,
yeah,
for us. You're such an inspiring person. You're the only reason why we would go on a call like this. Someone even
Correct.
missed his flight for you. So
I
thank
agree.
you.
oh,
Thank
that's
you for
not,
the work that you do, Ben. You really are such an inspiring person. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Kuya Ben.
So
Kuya
maraming
Ben.
salamat at ano to. Yeah, sa mga kuya. Well, thank you very much also. I mean, I think ano to, we will have more of this. We have more of this. And to all of our viewers, again, ano to, we will have another session for ano to, for the upcoming program. And I'd like to remind pala, sorry, I need to say this, for those people who have actually registered, so you need to post register. The link will be released after the end of this program. And lastly, some few announcements. We'd like to plug in our event for tomorrow, and this is actually hearing the side of Olongapo City on their fears and anxieties in this COVID-19. To also watch the inspiration segment of Runcation PH, and of course, our engagement on August 15 on entrepreneurship. We will be featuring a lot of entrepreneurs in the country, and that we will be giving their insights on on how business will thrive in this age of pandemic. And again, ito na po, narinig na natin ang pananaw regarding leadership, and talagang ang malinaw doon, merong pag-asa. So huwag tayo mawawalan ng pag-asa.
That's right.
So to Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat until the next program of I Love Bicol and then runcation.ph.